So a common question I get asked from aspiring and brand new agency builders is, should I provide a program that gives free leads to agents, or should the agents buy or generate their own leads on their own? In this video, I'm going to give you the pros and the cons to doing either or, as well as share my experience in running my operation, offering both types of strategies. My name is David Duford. I own this YouTube channel called Insurance Agency Builders. I have nothing to sell you. I'm not interested in recruiting you. The purpose of this channel just is to provide great information, experience, and wisdom building an agency for the past 10 plus years since 2013 to help pay it forward to you so that you can be more successful faster than I was while minimizing the landmine effects that can negatively affect your agency and reduce your overall success. So let's jump right into this. So we're going to first talk about the pros and the cons of a free lead program. So again, just to be clear, a free lead program is where you, the agency owner, and your recruits that you bring in, you provide them some sort of free leads so that the agent doesn't have to invest their own money into leads. So what are the pros of this system and this approach? First of all, there's no investment barrier to recruiting. In other words, as a recruiter, one of the issues we have, if you don't have a systematic approach and different strategies in place, is how do I find people to join my agency that are qualified? Well, one of the issues that disqualifies a lot of people is the lack of budget or the fear of spending money. So when you provide the leads for free to the agent, well, what does that do? It opens up the availability in the pool of applicants that can apply and join your agency. So you can arguably on some level find it a little bit easier to recruit to when you don't have to worry about saying, well, you got to spend $1,000 a week. And they're like, what? $1,000? I don't even have that in my bank account. So that means more potential recruit volumes. Second of all is more recruit interest. And that's really synonymous with what we described. You're going to get a lot more people interested in your profession because it's more like a job than it is running a business, right? Job being, a sales job, you don't have to buy leads. Whereas a business, yeah, you got to buy your own leads. So you're going to get more interest that way. And then lastly, or second to last here, is agent psychology. Again, this is the issue, and you're going to find agent psychology is a pro and con with all of these, right? Because there's just different human elements at play here with whatever system we're talking about. One of the biggest challenges in this business is to get people who buy leads to continue to buy leads even when things aren't going so well. We all that run agencies know that there are good weeks and bad weeks. And sometimes people can talk themselves out of running their business temporarily, sometimes permanently, by pulling back on their lead investment. And there's a whole psychology around investing in a continually large amount of money into leads every single week when we're not seeing the immediate return. So by you paying for the leads, you're negating that psychology of should I do this or not? And you're basically saying, hey, you're a good guy. We believe in you. We're going to keep providing you as long as you're writing leads. We know you're going to have off weeks here and there, but don't worry about coming out of pocket for leads. Just go work, 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 work. And so that keeps the agent a little bit more focused bandwidth-wise on the primary thing, which is work, is selling, and less opposed to losing, because that's the potential downside risk, right? When they buy their own leads is a potential loss. And I think partially because there's no such thing as a free lunch, a properly structured free lead program should lead to a higher return on investment for you, the agency owner, versus doing a broker policy or broker strategy where you're earning a lower margin. Anytime you have to provide leads at your cost, which is typically the strategy, you're looking at a situation where you're at risk for loss, right? And anytime that you're at a higher risk for downside loss, you should have a higher return on investment when things go well. So I think your margins should be a lot higher. For example, we make somewhere between 50 to 100% on each sale that a free lead agent makes when they first start. Sounds like a big margin, but I'm putting out for our free lead program $40 per lead, working on bringing that down. But what if the guy doesn't produce? That ain't no fun. That's a lot of money I lose, and it's going to be hard to get somebody else to work those leads. So I have to have suitable return on that investment to make it work. And so I think it's possible with less agents, but good agents, to make a lot higher net income to the agency than it would if you were just strictly working brokers. It may take 5 to 10 times more brokers to create the same net income as, say, a team of just career agents, you providing the leads for them, and they work them successfully. Now, what are the drawbacks to the free lead program? You got to guard the vault, okay? So what do I mean by that? Well, when something's free, there's agent psychology, there it is again. There's less of a respect sometimes for the fact that you're providing somebody free leads. There's not much at risk to the agent. So if they don't go work, it's like, well, so what? Granted, they'll get fired. There is always that risk, and that could be bad. But a lot of the times, the leads aren't treated in the same fashion as they would if they were buying their own leads. So you got to be very protective in watching your financial situation when you're providing free leads. Just because you give them leads doesn't mean that they can do whatever they want. There's some expectations, like what's the average required conversion ratio? What's the average premium required? When are you going to shut them off from free leads? If they have 2 good weeks and 1 bad week, do you keep giving them leads? Do you make them keep working? You're going to have to create a system to deal with this, right? And so, because otherwise, if you just constantly give free leads, you're likely going to be in the position to where what? You're at risk of losing. And you can lose real big real quick if you're not careful with how it goes. The other issue you deal with free lead programs, and this is really a function of really any product, is you're always going to have recruiters tempting holding out the hot dog of high commissions, right? So a lot of email recruiting, a lot of LinkedIn, Facebook, cold calls will be talking about high contracts they can get. And at some point, if they're contacted at the right time when things aren't going well, they may start to think that, oh, the real problem in this business is that, I have low commissions. I'm leaving tens of twenties of thousands of dollars on the table because of these low comp structure that I have. And that's why I'm not successful, right? So you have to be aware of that as them being constantly propositioned to give up this business model to go to the high commission level model instead. And then the last thing, of course, is there's a higher loss potential. With a higher return on investment, there is a higher loss potential. If you're buying fresh leads, there definitely is. If you're recycling age leads, it's going to be less so. But that's just the nature of any business model where, you're putting your money up front versus, on the broker side where you don't really put any money up front. Now, let's talk about the broker side. So that's I call it the broker side, but this is buying your own leads as an agent versus getting leads for free. So the pros of this to the agency is this minimizes risk. So when I started my agency, I only exclusively took agents that would buy leads. I was an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur. I think like an entrepreneur. That's how I talk. That's my psychology. So I wanted people like that. And so part of being an entrepreneur is you got to carry your own costs of doing business. And then the other side is I just didn't have the capital when I first started my agency to come up with money to provide these agents. And I really didn't want to micromanage and babysit a bunch of people too. So I really wasn't turned on or was attracted to the idea of providing free leads. So we specifically stuck with the you buy your own leads model and to minimize risk. And really, even though it was a smaller spread, it was secure in the sense that only a chargeback or roll up could cause something like that to happen to where we'd have losses. And then the other side of it is agent psychology. I truly think that the hardest working agents are the ones that have skin in the game. And when you put your own money into leads, you're much more likely to take action on getting the sales out of those leads and getting back to zero and beyond. Whereas the psychology for that when you're getting free leads is much less so the case, because so what? You just lose time, not time and money. So I think the motivation of a person buying their own leads tends to be a bit higher and results in a higher success rate. So now let's talk about cons. One of the biggest cons, guys, if you're going to have somebody buy leads, there's going to be less people interested in joining your agency because a lot of people don't have money or they're afraid of spending money and they have psychology issues with the ability to put out that money. So you're likely reducing your pool of applicants considerably when you require them to buy leads. And then there's also a time loss potential. Now, this is something of interest to me, and this is true really of all of this stuff here. Look, you can bring people in like what we used to do, and then only on the verbal promise they're going to buy leads, train them, and then turn them away or turn them out to go sell, and they don't ever actually buy leads because there was never really any skin in the game. They could put their toe in the water, use our resources without investing their own. And so one of the things that I do to help mitigate against this time loss potential of recruiting agents that say they're going to buy leads but never do is I require a lead deposit up front or evidence that they've bought leads like yesterday. And that filters out the weak hands that are just, just not going to do that. And I'd rather do that now than deal with training them for weeks on end and they never take the first jump. Like, for example, we had somebody cancel today on an interview and they were complaining, no legitimate operation requires you to pay up front. I'm like, look, you're not paying, you're depositing money for leads you would be purchasing, and they're not going to rebook with us. But I like that because I'd rather take care of that before we even interview, because if that's a holdup to them, fine. I don't want to waste their time and I don't want to waste mine, right? Okay, so lastly, let's go ahead and wrap this up and talk about how I run my operation, because I've grown and evolved a lot over the past 10 years. And we currently do a mixture of free leads and broker leads, with most of our agents buying their own leads. Historically, we've appealed to the broker type of mentality. They buy their own leads, the more entrepreneurial types. So most of our business is based off of that, but we started to extend and trial out the free lead model because I think there is a category of agent that works better on free leads. So we've been working that to some success on the face-to-face side, but we've had very much difficulty, and we're revisiting potentially doing it again in third or fourth quarter 2023 on the telesales side. We had attempted that early on, and there's a lot more cost and complexity in a telesales model. It's a much more difficult model to train agents on. And we did it, and it was just a big loss. It was, I don't know how much money we lost. Not a terrible amount, but very, very little success rate compared to the face-to-face model. And here's the thing, and I'll give you some advice here if you're going to go, especially the free lead route. One of the things we implemented on the face-to-face side that we really didn't do well enough on the telesale side is we really train our agents to death, and we cut them early if they don't go through all the requirements that we have. We almost think of that first week that we're training agents for our free lead face-to-face program as an extended interview. It's almost like a probationary period. Because if they're not going to do all the things we require to train them, and they're not that excited to find the time to work on this stuff, and they show up to the follow-up calls and they're not obviously doing their training and memorization, they're not going to succeed in the field. And so we aggressively cut them so that we only spend time with those who are winners and who actually follow through on us providing leads to go out there and be successful. So that's worked really well for us, and we're going to revisit the telesale side, hopefully to do the same thing. And but yeah, I prefer overall the broker side personally, just because I like managing risk. I like as low as possible downside risk. To me, that's how I've always thought of in business. I don't like taking big risks. I think risk taking is overrated for entrepreneurs. And at some point you got something that works. You want to be smart with it and take risks where there's little to no potential downside. And in free lead programs, there's a lot of potential downside if you're over zealous with it. So those are kind of my thought processes. We want to do more free lead programs. It opens up the opportunity for recruits and profitability. But what we've discovered is you have to just drill these agents to death and make sure that they're ready and quickly can them as soon as they show signs of them not taking this seriously, especially preemptively in the first week of boot camp training that we have. And then make sure that they understand what it takes to be successful, and always be measuring, managing that, micromanaging it even, and then get rid of those people who just don't follow through the system. It's very, very important, especially when you're doing the leads for them. Okay, very good. I hope you enjoyed this training. InsuranceAgencyBuilders.com if you want some free content that will help you build your agency even more. I'll be back with more videos in the future. Hope you enjoyed this one. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll be seeing you around. Y'all have a good day. Peace.